evening and welcome again to Public Perspective. I'm your host, Kevin McDermott. And as you probably know, if you've been watching the mail, it's tax season again. I think most of you have gotten your first installment property taxes. So here to talk with us tonight about property taxes is Senior Attorney Katherine O'Dell with Amare and Localo. Katherine?
Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Well, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here.
Great.
So we started out by talking about the tax bill, so let's start there.
Okay.
What's happening?
What's happening? So tax bills were mailed by the Cook County Treasurer's Office February 1st, coming up due March 1st. So the tax bills are 55% of what you paid the year before.
So it's the first installment of this year, but it's 55% of the total amount that you would have paid last year.
Exactly. That's standard.
Mm-hmm.
Second installment bills will then come out July 1st, payable August 1st, which they are coming out on time because we, had some times where they were coming out
several
August,
years.
September, October. I think we had one that was mid-November at one point, but they're actually coming out on time, due on August 1st. So, and that will be 45% of what you paid the year before, plus any exemptions you're entitled to, the homeowner's exemption, the senior citizen exemption, or the senior freeze.
So the exemptions only show up on the second installment?
Only on the second installment.
So that first installment's going to look really big to most people.
It always
right?
does. And
you think, geez, if I'm going to get two of these, my taxes must have gone way up.
Oh, we get those calls all the time. So, our law firm, we reduce people's real estate taxes. And when everyone gets those first installment bills, we sent our bills out saying, hey, we saved you X amount of dollars, and they see the first installment and said, well, you didn't save me anything, and they actually went up. And you have to explain them, no, it always comes off of the second installment. And the reason being is when you file an appeal, you're always working the year ahead. So right now, the Cook County Board of Review is still reviewing appeals for 2013. And if they're still reviewing the appeals for 2013 and you already received your first installment bill, it has to come off of the second installment bill.
Well, and it's important for people to understand that the bills they're getting now are for the tax year that ended in 2013.
Exactly.
Right.
It's like paying your taxes
paying your
every
income
year.
taxes, right?
Exactly. So you have to pay it by, what is it,
April
1st, April 15th. So same situation, we're collecting data from what it was in 2013 to file in 2014 because all the data's been collected.
So tell me about the exemptions. I mean, what is it that people can be exempted from, and how does that work?
Okay, so there are three exemptions that are most known and most used. There are a couple exceptions, like a veteran's exemption, but the three that are most popularly used are the homeowner's exemption. And the qualifications are you live in the property and you own it. That's all. So as of January 1st of that year.
Now, wouldn't that just sort of be by default, that, or do you have to apply for that?
Well, if you recently purchased your property, you have to apply for it.
And what's recent?
As of January 1st.
Of this year?
Right.
Okay.
Of this year. Well, okay. For 2013, you had to have owned it as of January 1st, 2013. And you would apply for that in the spring 2013. So if you bought it middle of 2013, you may not be eligible for the homeowner's exemption. But if you've lived there as of January 1st, and you recently purchased it, let's say you purchased it December of 2012, you'd have to apply for it. You could always do it on the assessor's website or go down to their office and apply for it. But most people have owned their homes for over a year, over 2 years, and the exemption's already there.
And it rolls over from year to year.
Rolls
you don't
year
have
to
to
year.
reapply.
Right.
But it's not a default. In other words, if you buy a house and you don't apply for it, you don't automatically get the homeowner's exemption, even though you may be a homeowner and living there.
Right.
Right. So if you never applied, you'd never get it.
Right. There are situations where if you actually own the home and you put it up for sale and a new buyer comes in, the assessor's office may not take the exemption off because they have to go through all public records of every home to find out which homes recently sold. So the homeowner's exemption may by default ride to the new owner, but not necessarily the case because now with the new assessor in, they're being more aggressive and more diligent in checking those records to make sure people who are entitled to those exemptions are getting them. Which leads me to the next scenario is the senior citizen exemptions. Because senior citizens haven't had to apply year after year and it would roll year after year, people who are recently purchasing their properties were getting a benefit of having these senior exemptions on their properties.
It rolls with the property, even though the new buyer could have been 25.
Exactly. And who's going to say, if you're going to save yourself $2,000 from the previous guy, you going to say anything to anybody? No.
Most people will not do that.
No, they're not going to fill out the paperwork. They're going to hopefully let it roll year to year. You know, and after a couple of years, you would think the assessor's office would have removed those exemptions knowing that you purchased it. But by that point, it's too late. So you're just going to let it keep going. But there's new legislation out now.
Well, now let me ask you though, if let's say you're 25 and you buy a house and it has that previous senior citizens exemption, and you let it run for 4 or 5 years, and the assessor discovers it, are they going to get you for those 4 or 5 years?
They are now. They are now, and that's why it's very concerning, so people understand that the assessor's office has a new group that's going to go out and make sure that whoever received those exemptions, that they can go back and back tax you for those exemptions. And they give you a small window where you have to pay that money back. And if you don't pay it, back, and I could be wrong on this because this is brand new, they're going to charge you interest, and if you don't pay it within 6 months, you're going to get a penalty, which could be half of what the actual entire amount is.
Wow, half of what you owe.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And again, it's brand new. They haven't started it yet. But if any homeowner receives a notice in the mail saying that, you know, you're going to get back taxed this amount of money because you had the benefit of an exemption that you weren't entitled to, I definitely would get on the phone and call them and find out what recourse you have, which isn't much.
I was going to ask, is there any recourse? I mean, because conceivably that could be a big number.
No, there's a bona fide purchaser issue. Let's say you bought it, and the senior citizen was there, it had it, and it was like in the middle of the process, and they removed it, but the senior citizen owned it for 6 months, and then you owned it for 6 months. You know, there's a grace period.
But I would think it would be very easy. You know, I know I don't read my tax bill. I don't scrutinize it closely. It would be easy, I would think, to have an exemption rolled over from a previous owner and not realize it. So you could go for years thinking, oh, this is just my tax rate.
And you could also blame the attorneys who are closing on the properties who know that. And, you know, again, it's something, it's also, that question comes into play too when the property's reassessed and you're recently purchasing a home. Because they escrow money and they're escrowing it from the year before, but if the property's reassessed, they don't know what the new number's going to be. So that's something else you have to pay attention to. So there are ways where that should not happen to someone, because the assessor places an assessment on the property, which is a percentage of the market value. So you could figure out what the tax amount is by taking that assessment that the assessor placed, multiply it by the local tax rate of where you live, and then multiply that by the state multiplier to get your tax amount. Without any exemptions, without any reductions, you know what that tax amount is.
But who would really do that?
You know, no one,
Yeah.
really. But
Yeah.
again, you can't really rely on the exemptions because the exemptions are never the same year after year. You know, one year they had the 7% cap homeowners legislation years back, and people were getting thousands of dollars off of their homeowners exemption because the rule was your taxes can't increase more than 7% from the year before. So people, and that was when the economy was booming. So people are getting thousands. You look at it now, and it could just be a couple hundred. So you can't really rely on what the exemptions are. The senior citizens exemptions are changing, where there's a, you know, the senior citizen exemption, so let's define that. The senior citizen exemption is you own it, you live there, and you're over 65 years old. Entitled to it,
Pretty
every
simple,
senior
right.
citizen has to go apply for that now, year after year.
Oh, every year they have to renew
Every
it.
year they have to renew it because of the situation where people were benefiting from receiving exemptions they shouldn't have been.
that's
So they're
part of the-
making the senior citizens go in now and file for those exemptions.
And that's part of the new legislation, right?
Right.
Now, can you do all this filing online? Can you?
Yes. Basically, the assessor's office just sent the booklets out for the 2014 year. So you could fill that out, so that will be reflected in the bill. I'm almost sure it's 14, not 13. It's 14. So if you missed that opportunity or you didn't get the booklet, you could pull the information online, or you can call the assessor's office and have them send you the information. Because again, when you're dealing with so many pieces of property, the addresses that they may have on record may be wrong. So that's also very concerning, because if the addresses are wrong and you're not receiving a bill, you know, the rule is if you own real estate, you know you should be paying your bill. So You can't go back and say, well, I didn't get a bill because you had my address wrong. And I just got that call the other day from a client. I said, yeah, but the law is you own property, you should know to pay your bill, and there's no excuses for you not paying it. So you have to pay it with interest because you're late now.
Even though it got delivered to the wrong address and they never got it, it's you still you own property and you owe taxes, right? So,
Exactly.
okay.
Exactly.
Now the laws that we're talking about and these regulations as well. Does this apply outside of Cook County? Is this a state or these are?
No, this is direct. I'm just talking Cook County.
Okay, but the homeowners exemptions, for example, is that a state law or is that county ordinance?
That's county.
Okay, so all of these things that are happening are in Cook County only.
I think so.
Okay, and they may be in other counties.
Because I don't really practice outside of Cook County. Our firm does, but I strictly concentrate on inside of Cook County.
Okay, but I would think that the caveats that you're mentioning, like take a look and be aware. I mean, that would apply to anybody, no matter where you live.
Sure.
Because these laws or the ordinances, they change, right? And I'm sure that no matter what county you're in, these things change from year to year because the tax situation is always changing, and the county commissioners are always looking for new revenue, or so.
But if you look at the property tax code, which is where all this information is derived from the Illinois revised statutes.
And the tax code is the Illinois.
They always
statutes,
break
right?
it out. Counties over 3 million, counties less than 3 million. So
Population, right?
exactly. So things that may apply in Cook County because of the higher population may not apply to everybody else. So that's why I'm saying I'm only referring to Cook County in this situation because I'm not really sure. I don't know if the assessor's office outside of Cook County is going to start. But again, there's less properties outside of Cook County where they may not have to do this. But what concerns me is the senior citizens have to apply a year after year. And if they don't get the booklet and they don't mail it, or if they do mail it and it gets lost somewhere, they need to make sure that they go down to the assessor's office and apply, especially with the senior citizen freeze, because that could really substantially save some money for these senior citizens.
What is the senior citizen freeze?
It's the same qualifications. You own the property, you live there, you're over 65, and you have to have a household.
65 or older.
65
right?
or older.
Okay.
And you have to have a household income of less than $55,000.
And the freeze does what? It means
It freezes your assessment, the equalized assessments.
Okay, so tax rates may still change. Your taxes could vary, but the assessed value of your house, the equalized assessed value of your house, is frozen at that point till you die or you sell the house, right?
You're right, exactly.
Okay.
But it depends upon when it was frozen. And a big discrepancy that I see when I'm talking with senior citizens are, I'm not getting the amount that I used to get on the senior freeze back in the day. Well, it's because where it was frozen at 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or however long you've had it on the property, the market value of your property is actually decreased, and now you're actually at or below where it was frozen. So you're not getting that benefit, and you may not even be entitled to get the senior freeze because it doesn't work in your situation. So they're only getting the senior citizen exemption.
So on their tax bill, it would say that your senior freeze exemption is 0, for example.
It would say, it would say 0, and then it'd look like you never applied for it, when in reality
or it was
you
rescinded,
did.
but in fact it has to do with the value of your property.
Yeah, the assessor's office says we'll give you whatever is more beneficial if that happens to you. Whatever higher amount you'll get, we'll either just give you the senior citizen exemption, or we'll give you the exemption and the freeze, but the freeze will be almost nominal. So, but it's a different scenario as it's been in the last 10 years. So, with seniors knowing that they have to reapply, that they have to apply year after year at the assessor's office, some of them it's difficult for them to get around to have to do that. But the assessor's office also has branch locations. So anywhere you live, you don't have to go downtown to do it. You can just call a branch location or go there, and they'll give you the information.
And are those at the county courthouses?
Right,
branch? Yeah.
county courthouses. So if I'm also trying to let the senior citizens know, since this has been in effect for a couple of years now, they need to check their tax bill, their second installment bill, and see if they've got their homeowner's exemption, their senior citizen exemption, and the freeze if they're entitled to it. And if they see it over the last couple of years that they didn't get it, they can actually go and apply for a partial refund. It's called a certificate of error.
Which means there was an error on the part of the assessor's office.
No, it was really, it's an error that you should have received an exemption, you didn't. Whoever's error it is, you should have gotten it and you didn't because you're entitled to it.
And would that be true even if you just didn't apply?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So anything that you were entitled to that you didn't get is under this category of error.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. for certificate of error for exemptions. If you didn't apply for it, or you thought you did and you didn't, you have the right to do it.
Right.
There's a certificate of error process when you're in the appeal process that's different. That's
But
a factual error.
And how long does that, it's the original certificate of error, not the factual certificate, how far back does that go?
All certificates of error, whether it be exemptions or regular, it's 3 years.
3 years. Okay, so you
3
can
years.
collect up to 3 years worth of. Well, that's interesting. So if, for example, going back to our earlier discussion, you had erroneously had a senior citizen discount on your property for however many years, 10, for example, the assessor could come back to get that 10 years worth of back
Yeah, I'm not
taxes,
sure
right?
about that. I don't have the statute in front of me to quote it. I wish I would have brought it, but I don't know if they can only go back 3 years. It would make
so there
sense.
So I would think that it would be even-handed. That
Yeah,
it's 3 years in
because
either case.
if the reason why is they close it. They close that year.
Right.
So if they're going to close the year, how are they going to be able to collect for the year that's already been closed?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that would make sense, but
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. But that's why the exemptions are so important right now, because people just don't understand what the consequences are if you had it and you shouldn't have, or you should have but you didn't. So just to educate everybody. But again, I'm here to explain to the taxpayers how you could save $1. I mean, it's like playing the lottery. If you don't buy a lottery ticket, you're not going to win. If you don't file your exemptions or file an appeal to reduce the overall market value of your property, you're not going to get your taxes reduced.
Of course, the difference there is that in the lottery, you can buy a whole bunch of tickets and your chances of winning are still really low. But with an exemption, if you file it and you're qualified, you'll get it.
No, if you live there, if it's your primary residence and you're on title, you're going to get it. So again, it's going to be $300, $500, $700, depending upon how long you've owned the house. But that's just free money. And if you didn't get it for past years, that's definitely free money. And especially when you get to the second installment, let's say your property was reassessed, which means the assessor reassesses properties every 3 years, determines a new market value. Your taxes may have gone up because of the reassessment if you didn't file an appeal, so you didn't get any exemptions. That's definitely going to help bring your taxes not in line with what it was, but at least help you a little bit.
So how does your firm enter into this? People come to you and say, I'm unhappy with my tax bill and what can I do?
Yeah.
And then you take them through it? So I know you wouldn't want to discuss rates, but I just think if...
Well, they're pretty standard, though, so it doesn't matter if I discuss our rates. Everyone's pretty much standard.
But attorneys are not inexpensive. And so if I am interested in my taxes and I am eligible for a $700 credit, it might cost me $700 to get that $700 credit, right?
Well, I look at it this way. We don't charge you unless we're able to help you. It's on a contingency fee. So we're working for free. So if I help you, it's a win-win, and we're only asking for a small percentage of what we saved you. So if I saved you $100, we charge 15 for homes. We charge 15% of that $100 savings.
Oh,
So that's like free.
yeah, that's
I mean, you're
pretty
gonna spend that at
inexpensive.
Target.
Right.
So why
Right.
not do that with
spend that at
commercial?
Starbucks.
Yeah, right. With commercial, industrial, large apartment buildings, it's a little bit more labor intensive. We charge a little bit more, but that's a little bit more complicated than it is filing a home.
Right.
When you file on a home, there are only a couple options you have to ask the assessing officials to bring your taxes down. Whether it be you recently purchased the property and the market value that you purchased the property at is lower than the assessor's market value. There's an equity analysis. It's constitutional, where everybody has to be in line with each other in the same neighborhood, same classification of house with similar building square feet. You can also get an appraisal on your property. Let's say you refied, and the bank prepared an appraisal for you and came to a market value, and that market value is lower than what the assessor's market value is. We use that as evidence. Best indicator of market value is appraisal and purchase price. We can do an income approach too by looking at income statements, but generally best indicator, purchase price, appraisal.
So just like the real estate industry, you could also go around and look at comparables, right, in your neighborhood. And that's what you were talking about
Exactly.
earlier,
That's
right?
an equity analysis or a lack of uniformity.
Right. So I think we've already segued into the appeals process right here.
Right.
So how does that work? If someone feels that they're not getting the proper taxation, they come to you, and where does it start? Where do you start?
Okay, well, they'll call up and say, I have my house. We're going to just keep it to houses. It's just easier. I have a house. I really want to get the taxes lowered. They're out of line. Okay, first and foremost, I need your property index number. I can't do anything without your property index number.
But fortunately, that's on the tax bill.
It is on the tax bill. You can try to give me your address. I could look it up on the assessor's website, but sometimes the addresses may not match the PIN number. You know, the assessor's office has its own record cards and printouts, and sometimes the addresses might not match. So I asked for the PIN number.
And the PIN number is the property
index
identification
number.
Right.
Yeah, it's just the abbreviation for it. It's easier. They'll give me that. I'll find out where the property's located and figure out where it is in the process. Because the assessor's office will open up a township for appeals in any given year by township on a rolling basis. So right now, for instance, 2013, too late to file an appeal for 13.
Because you're already getting your tax bills. Right?
You're already getting our tax bills, and the Board of Review, all right, the assessor's the first level to file an appeal, the Board of Review is the second. So if you missed an opportunity to file at the assessor's office, you have the right to file at the Board of Review. You don't have to file at the assessor before the Board of Review. You could do one or the other or both. Right now,
but it's like an appeals process
Yeah.
where if you're turned down by the assessor, you can still go to the Board of Review?
right, or if you missed the opportunity to file at the assessor, you could still go to the Board of Review.
But the Board of Review is the final say, right?
It's the final say. It's the final say. Yeah, that's it. The Board of Review is called a quasi-judicial body because you have the right to have a hearing at the Board of Review, where you don't have the right to have that at the assessor's office. So, point being, it's too late for us to file appeals for 2013. The Board of Review has closed all townships to file a complaint, an appeal. The Board of Review is still deciding the appeals that have already been turned in because they look at the briefs, the evidence that was submitted, and determine whether the assessment should be reduced. And the reason why the reductions are reflected in the second installment bill is because there's no way that the Board of Review could have finalized all of the appeals in 2013 by February 1st. So the
Is
Board
that because of just the sheer volume of appeals?
Well, yeah. I mean, because you're going through two levels, too. You're going through the assessor first, and the assessor now, with Assessor Barrios, is trying to close theirs by Christmas. So if you think about it, 2014 has just opened at the assessor's office, and we're in March. We're going into March. They're going to close by Christmas, and the Board of Review will take over, and they're going to close by April, May. So that way they could transmit all that information to the treasurer's office to print their bills. But there's no physical way, even if the assessor's office closes in November, December, that the assessor's office is going to be able to finish up their appeal process by the time the second installment bill comes out. So, and then as far as the appeal process goes, the assessor's office is now open for Riverside, River Forest, Norwood Park. Those are always the first townships to open, and the assessor's office just opened a month ago. The assessor at first actually held its meeting this year just to let everybody know what the appeal process is going to be this year, if there are any changes, developments. So right now, we have until mid-March to file appeals for the townships that are open. All the southern townships have been reassessed this year, and the northern townships were reassessed last year in 2013, and the city's going to be reassessed in 2015.
So where's the dividing line between north and south, northern suburbs and southern?
Well,
southern
I look at it in just the suburb way.
Okay.
You know where the suburbs are with
Yeah.
the northern townships. It's Evanston, New Trier. Southern townships, they start from Norwood Park, Leiden, Proviso, goes all the way to Thornton, Homewood. So, I think northern this way, city, southern.
So if you kind of take a straight line from downtown and go out west, like from Madison Street, go straight out west, north of that is north and south of that is south, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess I've been doing this for so long, too, that it doesn't even faze me because, would you really consider Norwood Park a southern suburb? Well, no, Norwood Park's really, that's city. Norwood Park is considered city. But,
Well, even Proviso, I don't
Norwich.
really think of Proviso as
See,
being
that's more like
south.
Rosemont.
Well, Maywood,
Elmwood
yeah,
Park.
I think of those as being west. but they don't break it up that way, north, west, and south,
Right.
just north and south. Okay.
And again, it's all the way the townships lay.
Yeah.
But so the southern townships are being reassessed right now. And what happens is the assessor's office will send a one-page notice to every person that's being reassessed in that township when it opens to let them know, we're reassessing you. Here's your property. Here's your new assessment, your new market value. And it has on the bottom, this is the date you have to file an appeal by. And it's 30 days from the day that they open the township.
Okay. And
So-
how long is it generally open?
It's
The 30
open.
days is the appeals period?
Right.
You
have to
open it and you got
submit
30
a
days.
Right. You have to
Okay.
submit a complaint in 30 days, and then they'll give you an additional 10 days to submit additional data if you need an extra 10 days.
Yeah.
And then they'll hold on to it for a month or two to determine whether or not your appeal is warranted a reduction. And then they'll send letters in the mail letting you know if you were denied or if you did receive a reduction, here's your new assessment.
And your firm would do that with someone, or like, for example, if I felt I had an appeal, would you just simply advise me and say, well, here's what you do, or would you actually handle it?
No, well, it depends. Now, assessing officials like taxpayers to file on their own. If you call and want to you want to file on your own, I'll help you go through that process, at least point you in the right direction. But we represent a lot of homes. And I always suggest to have an attorney work on your home just because there are so many deadlines that you wouldn't even know where to look and follow. That's our job.
Right.
And again, if we're going to not charge you unless we help you, might as well let them do it. And I'm not here advocating here I want your business, but it's just safer and easier to have an attorney who does that for a living to handle your property. But getting back to how we started this conversation, because it's so much information to obtain. You call me up and say I have a house, and I have a house. Let's say I have a house in the city. Okay, well, the city's not reassessed this year. It wasn't reassessed since 2012. You would never know really when that township's going to open unless you call the assessor or get on their website and find out when the township opens yourself. So I know that I'm going to be filing an appeal for the 2014 year because that's the only time we could appeal now is for 14, knowing it's the last year of the triennial. Because then next year you're going to get reassessed again. I'm going to have to file on you again. Okay, so if it's the city properties, there's really nothing open yet in 2014 at the assessor's office. There's a list, and I'll check to make sure. We'll open up a file. We'll send some documents that I would need you to fill out, which is really a form telling the assessor's office or the Board of Review you're letting us file on your behalf. It's called an authorization form.
Yeah. Sort of like allowing someone to file your taxes with the feds.
Right. Exactly. So then we'll either do an equity or a lack of uniformity approach, or depending upon the situation of the property, purchase price, appraisal. Was it a newly constructed house?
Yeah.
Was there some vacancy? So at that point, then whatever the assessor's office decides, we'll have the right to file at the Board of Review. Second level, same scenario. They have townships that open and close. You file an appeal with them. The difference with the Board of Review is you have the right to file a hearing. They'll actually send you a hearing notice, and you can actually go and speak to a Board of Review hearing officer.
Well, on that note, I hope we've been informative to the people who.
I know
this
it's
is a tough
just
subject,
too much. It's too
right?
much to say in a half hour.
Right. So they have to come and see you and talk
Or
to you.
they're going to
right?
have to call the assessor or the Board of
Right.
Review.
Well, Catherine, I want to thank you so much for being back here. It's your second time. I hope you
Yeah.
come back again. It's an issue that we all have to deal with every year.
I
So
know. Well,
thank you
thank
so
you very much for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you for joining us once again on Public Perspective. I'm your host, Kevin McDermott. You can find us every Saturday night at 8 on Comcast Channel 19 and on the web at publicperspective.tv. So till next time, thank you and good night.